Hey everyone, this is Professor John McKinney here with International Management, Class Management 4380. Um, this week on our video, I have a really special guest for us to talk to. Our special guest, her name is Imka. Imka is from South Africa, and she's done a lot of different stuff. She spent some time working in Los Angeles early on in her career. She's gone through training and schooling in London. And now what she does is she actually works as a hospitality consultant um, in in Africa. Well, she actually does it worldwide, but she has a large footprint of providing these hospitality consulting skill sets in the African safari industry. With that being said, super excited to have Imka on this call, and we're gonna talk about her experience specifically as it relates to South Africa and other countries in Africa, and then what it kind of looks like from dimensions of culture, which is what you're studying in the text this week in chapter 4. Without wasting any more time, let's start the interview with Imka. Hey Imka, how are you doing today?
Hi, I'm so good, thank you. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you for being willing to hop on this call today to tell myself and my students a little bit more about what you do and the countries you live and work in.
Yeah,
That's thank you for being willing to do that. Now, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, what you do, where you live, all the places you've been, all the cool stuff. We'd love to hear it.
cool, no problem. Firstly, thank you. Thanks for, thinking of me. I have been quite a bit of places and it's really cool to kind of be hopping onto stuff like this. And hello, everybody. So my name's Imke. I'm majorly in hospitality. I think I grew up in hospitality in South Africa. Not of choice, but because my mother forced me to, in the nicest way. Typical when you're at home and you have to work whether you wanted to or not. Teenage life. But grew up in hospitality and then decided I wanted to be a chef. I very quickly realized also that I didn't want to immediately go study and then just run straight into the workforce. I did anyways, but I moved to Los Angeles for a year after high school, and then came back to South Africa. Did my studies as a chef, and then quickly realized that I needed to get out of the country again and go and see the rest of the world because I figured if LA is this cool, I need to kind of go and see what the rest of the world is like. And I pretty much have not stopped traveling since. That was when I was 19, and I am now a full 34, or almost 34 years old, and I've not stopped. I've traveled the entire world. I've been to all seven continents. I've worked on all seven continents, and I'm quite lucky. I want to say lucky. I'm not lucky. I've worked hard, but I've worked hard to be able to say that I have worked on all seven continents, and I have not needed to pay for a single in my life. So that's pretty cool that I've seen all these incredible places and I've never needed to pay for it because there's people willing to pay for me to do it. It's fun. That's a little bit about myself.
Okay. And so you live in South Africa right now,
Yeah,
correct?
I do.
Um,
Yeah, I mean, I've settled in South Africa, and I say settled like I settled in South Africa now, and I travel in and out quite regularly. Currently, I'm not even at an apartment that is mine. I'm still in South Africa, but it's not an apartment that's mine. I've been pulled into a different direction and asked to come and open a restaurant in Stellenbosch. So it's cool. I'm just hopping around. I'm so used to it by now. It's normal.
yeah. So I know you're working as a consultant with like opening different restaurants and kind of helping the safari industry with, you know,
Yeah.
um, just I guess professionalism with like their cooking or what serving. What are you doing exactly in kind of that realm with that stuff?
So it's interesting. I call myself a hospitality consultant and a hospitality trainer. but it's different. So I just do different things. I specialize in quite a bit of different directions. So I'm a chef by trade, but I'm also a butler by trade. So I do front of house, back of house training. I organize all operations and kind of any operations with it, whether it's a restaurant or a hotel or a small business or anything in the hospitality industry. I run the entire, I kind of, I don't want to say figure out the business plan, but I figure out the operational plan. So any SOPs from the minute that even the manning, I do all the manning templates, all of the bits and pieces, and make sure that the place actually comes together and is a running, working business, not just from the financial side, but from the staffing and the guest experience side, making sure that the place will actually make sense once it's standing. Because it's all good and well, it could look beautiful, but it does actually need to work for the people that work there. Otherwise, a bit useless. And yeah, I do quite a bit of marketing, social media work. Pretty much, I want to call myself a jack of all trades, but I genuinely am a master of most of those. So not of all of them in the slides list, but definitely I'm actually quite good at what I do. So I have to say that about myself more often. A lot of people are like, you are too humble. I'm like, no, I have to be serious. I am actually quite good at what I do. So I have to be, yeah, nice about that.
Yeah.
So it's difficult to talk about yourself, so
Yeah. Well, and I know in the last year, there was a safari camp that got like a really huge award. Is that correct that you worked with?
Yes, so I've worked with I've worked with so many different safari camps. One of the biggest ones that I just consulted at, I think it was mid last year. I consulted, helped them out, and just helped them kind of rejig their I want to call it the management structure, just tell them, like where the faults are. And it was quite nice actually to realize they won one of the best or the top lodges, not they won the top lodge of South Africa, which to me was like a huge thing, thinking that for that whole entire year they've been working towards this, and just something as little as my, my 3 cents worth of
Yeah.
information actually helped them quite a bit. So that was really nice. It was a good, kind of notch for me. And yeah, overall, I mean, we have so many beautiful places. One of the biggest designed lodges, but also I don't know, like they keep winning awards for as a project that I helped work on. It's not mine in the slightest. I just helped work with that is a lodge called Lalabezi in Botswana. No, not Botswana, Zambia. Sorry, wrong one. In Zambia, and it's such a stunning space, and they just have won awards over and over again for the service there, for the food, for the setting, obviously, and for the actual design, because it's such a beautifully designed space. So it's fun for me at the moment to be able to walk into places and say, or even just be able to see stuff online saying, this place is doing all these things, and my name is never mentioned anywhere, but that I don't care. It's one of those, like, you don't actually mind. I don't mind the fact that my name is not coupled to anything because I consult for different businesses. But it's cool that I can say that this was something that I did, even if it's something as small as I did the cocktail list for this place, or I did the manning for that place or something or the other, knowing that, it's such a massive operation to pull even just a restaurant together. Just a 30-seater restaurant together is a massive operation. And you can't do it by yourself in any case. So I would never be able to take credit for anything. It's impossible. Can't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, this week in the class, the students are reading about dimensions of culture, right? So, what's really cool with your background, with being at all these different countries, all 7 continents, I think you have a good grasp on different cultures, right, and values that culture has. So I was curious if you could talk kind of about, specifically South African culture, as it relates to the workplace, what workers tend to care about, and then, maybe even some of the other countries in Africa that you've gone to as well, because I'm sure depending on what country you're at, there's different values of the people that you're training or working with. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
definitely.
can you talk about that?
Of course, yeah. I mean, I think for me, the biggest thing, what I've realized in all these different places, is mostly humans overall. It doesn't matter where they are, but everyone just always wants respect in some sort of thing. So it doesn't matter what their designation is. One of the biggest things that I train worldwide anyways is that it doesn't really matter what the culture is at the end of the day. Everybody should be respectful towards each other, regardless of what your background is or what their background is or could be or should be. Because it's just we're in such a different space in our human world currently. This doesn't even, that culture is one of those things that we're used to. There's so many other changing parts currently that you can't really like lock down and say, okay, yeah, this culture is specific to that, because it's actually now your culture is, even your own culture that you're used to, is breaking into 20, 30 different places. Where so many, you have to be very respectful towards people overall. It doesn't matter just with your culture, but I mean, so many things can change. And you don't want to upset anyone, because that's hard. It's very difficult not to upset people. So it's very hard to just kind of find that balance. But I think South Africa, we're, you know what, I'm a bit biased, I guess, but like we genuinely are a wonderful group of people down here. We have 11 different languages, which on our official languages are 11 languages. It's a massive group of people. We are called the Rainbow Nation because we really are a bunch of a massive diversity of cultures just within South Africa. So for us, there's not one moment where we're sitting going, oh, you know, like we aren't like appreciative or respectful towards other people's cultures. And now I speak out of, and I know that South Africa is very like known for being racist. Meantime, back at the ranch, we're actually really nice people. We've just been labeled badly 7 million years ago, but we're actually genuinely happy people. So I think cultures, and specifically in the workplace, what's important for South Africa, again, is just being respectful towards everyone's designation. I mean, I know that even something like in the Netherlands or in Amsterdam, saying something as easy as sex workers, which is completely different, they very much are just be respectful. It's still that's my income. And I think in any world, doesn't matter what you're doing, whether it's hospitality or not, just being respectful towards each other, from managerial side towards the staff and vice versa. Everyone just needs to be super respectful. In South Africa, we're really good at that. We are really, really good at being respectful to each other. We all understand that there's no, it's weird. We just genuinely nice to each other most of the time. I can't say all the time. It also depends on which part of the country you are, I guess. But most of us, and especially our generation, we're actually all very decent. So we're really nice towards our cultures in the world as well. As I said, like everybody, just at the end of the day, it really just comes down to respect.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I didn't realize, I mean, 11 different languages
I know it's a massive, we have such a wonderful culture in South Africa for that. I mean, it's really like we are so inclusive of everybody already, that there's not one moment where you're sitting there going, our culture is more, mine is better than yours. I mean, for example, the Rugby World Cup is currently in full swing, and South Africa won last time. So we're all immediately, our rugby jerseys are donned, we are ready. This is, action, and everybody, the whole of South Africa, in the country as well as worldwide, is already immediately standing together. Our culture is incredibly strong. We are a very strong little unit. But it's very weird if I think about, specifically cultures in specific workplaces. Us South Africans, we're very, very forward speaking, and we can come across incredibly angry when we're actually really not. We're just very, I'm trying to find the word, sorry, second language, trying to find the specific word, but we're incredibly forthright. We don't have, there's no this or that. We don't beat around the bush in the slightest. We say it exactly as it is, and that's it. Whereas if I go to Kenya, for example, I have to be a lot quieter and a lot more respectful of my tone of voice, even, because they might take it very differently. And then you kind of just, then you'll break that bond immediately. So you got to be very respectful. of other people's things. Respect is the only thing that's going to get you through anything anyway. And I mean, so because, and as you know, John, I mean, I worked as a flight attendant in the first class and residence cabins for a very long time. And I met cultures from all over the world on a daily basis, even. And sometimes I'd be on a plane with 300 different cultures in just one plane. And you're sitting there going, how on earth am I going to be able to firstly communicate with all these people, and secondly, not be disrespectful of all these cultures, because it's impossible to research all these cultures immediately. I can't walk onto a plane and know everyone's wrongs and rights and religions and cultures and backgrounds. And again, the only thing that was important is to smile and be respectful. That's it. You'll get everywhere with a good smile. At least that's what my mom taught me. So I guess that's a good thing.
Yeah, I know. With the handful of South Africans that I know, I would agree that Africans in general are pretty direct. You know, a lot of times I try to think from the United States that we're pretty direct with people, but I think you all are more direct than we are. So
Oh, definitely. Exactly. No, we say it as it is. We don't have time to this and that, but we're generally a group of incredibly happy and fun people. But we're not gonna, yeah, we're not gonna beat around the bush and be like, oh, everything's all right, when it's really not. We're gonna say it. We're gonna get it done, because at the end of the day, like, what are we trying to do? Especially if we have a specific end goal to get to, we're going to say, this is what the end goal is. Stop trying to hana about it and just get to the end goal, kind of thing. This is what the point is. So that's how you're going to get to the point, instead of going, yes, but it's okay and everything's fine. It's not. Like, that's it. So we are incredibly strict, very forthright. Yeah, very, very little whimsy in our day-to-day life, but in the workplace, everybody is incredibly respectful of each other, and that's, I think, something that comes just from us being such a culturally diverse country by itself. We have to be. It's just an automatic response. We don't really have another choice. You have to be, and it's nice. It's how we were raised to be.
yeah. So, so you kind of touched on this a minute ago, when you were talking about going to Kenya, right, and having to like be careful. Have you noticed with that direct mentality, right? Even though it's not intentionally coming off on as rude or mean, but if you're going to a different country, I'm assuming if you're going to Kenya or Botswana or those other countries that you go and consult in, have you ever had it where people that you're working with like freak out with the way you're talking to them, and you have to like adjust your, not necessarily freak out, but you have to adjust your behavior to be able to reach those individuals? Can you kind of talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, of course, definitely. I think there's times in my previous jobs that I've been told, you're very strict, you're very and this was mostly when I was flying, because when I was flying, I was in the first class cabin. I was in charge of that cabin, and
Mhm.
I was just being my happy normal self, and then my manager would come to me saying, listen, you're very strict towards these girls, and then they're not used to it. Now, first, I'm a chef, so it's hard. I'm automatically an angry human because we're chefs, right? Like, stereotypically, we have to be angry. Thanks, Gordon Ramsay. But if not, and usually, like, I'm not like that at all. I see myself as a very friendly and very happy person. I've met a lot of other people in this world that's just not. Um, it's hard. It is, yeah, it's hard. Anyway, if I'm thinking about going to Kenya, for that matter, and this is great because I've done my research on places, but I will never go into a new country or go and meet new people that I've not researched, especially if I'm walking into another culture. So specifically to say, like, how are the people of Kenya? Like, what are their, feeling towards other cultures firstly, and I spoke to a good bunch of different people as well about this that's already been there, or people that work there, and saying that you have to do the research, especially if you're going to a whole new place, because you don't. Something as easy, and something that I do in my training, anyways, is saying that in the Arabic culture, handing something with your left hand is seemed incredibly rude, but that's a religious thing for them. So you don't want to automatically annoy someone with that kind of thing when you can just do a little bit of research and be happy with it. I've definitely felt and found that people are automatically like, how dare you say this in some spaces, or how can you speak to me like that? And you can feel a change in people where they kind of just switch off in a way that they say, like, I don't want to speak to this person because she's automatically not being nice to me. I've now learned to brief people before I start doing anything. So I just briefly say to them, I am from South Africa and I might come across incredibly rude, but I'm actually really not. It's just the way that I speak. And it's just part of my culture, like the typical resting bitch face. It's not who, it's just who I am. And then people automatically kind of soften towards me and realize that I might be coming across incredibly like angry, but meantime, I'm genuinely not. So yes, and it's hard. It's a very difficult one because yes, you definitely see when people will change towards you thing, but I've just learned over the years to kind of brief people and say it's really not how I am, especially if I'm going to be working with them for a long period of time. If it's someone I'm meeting on on a quick brief moment, then that's okay. But otherwise, I have to brief. I can't be walking around to everyone going, "I'm from South Africa and this is hard." No, I have to. Yeah, it is. It's challenging when you automatically get seen as someone that's very strict and forthright and whatever. In the meantime, we're actually lovely. That's just how we are. I don't know. It's just how our faces are. It's like saying to somebody that they have an accent. No, you have an accent. So it's just the typical. We all have accents. We all have our different ways of saying stuff and being. And yeah, we are very direct. South Africans are quite direct. And if I'm going to different countries, I just have to adjust myself a little bit.
Yeah.
Keep it in my hand.
I'm sure the countries next to South Africa is probably known to be a little bit more direct. So they're like, oh, she's just from South Africa.
Yeah, but literally, it's true. A lot of places that are just like they'll automatically ask me, "You're from South Africa," and then I'm like, "Yes," and they're like, "Ah, that makes sense," and then you're like, "Okay, cool, thanks." Like at least they already kind of expect and they understand how to handle us as a culture as well. Because that's the thing. It's like we walk into any kind of and us as South Africans will walk into any kind of group of people, and automatically they go, "This is a person from South Africa." How do I handle it? But secondly, why are they white? Yeah, we get that question quite often. It's really annoying. A lot of us are white, but it's one of those typical things. It's a stereotypical thing. I would much prefer people saying stereotypically South Africans are incredibly strict, because at least that's we're strict. It's like Germans are very strict. So I don't know which things we are, but it's just that typical stereotypical thing that you have about different cultures are in different places and in different, brackets or whatever. And if we're friendly, we're friendly, and if we're not, we're not. But we are actually a very welcoming and a very hospitable country. So,
Yeah.
yeah, culturally and in the hospitality industry, we are lovely, I promise. But managerial, we get quite angry. So, we have to be strict.
Yeah. No, I mean, everyone I've met from South Africa is, as you say, very lovely individual, right? Like someone that I enjoy hanging out with. And actually, I've learned that on the grand scheme of people worldwide, I connect well with South Africans. But
See, I told
I
you we're
know,
lovely people.
yeah, for sure. But I can definitely see that as well,
Yeah.
especially going to some of those other countries just north of you all.
Yeah.
Now, with that, I guess I have two more questions. The first one is, do you have a story of, you know, a country that you went to? I guess maybe not like an embarrassing story, but where like, you just showed up and it was like the culture was completely different than you expected. And like, what was that scenario like, right? And so, yeah, do you have any story like that?
I think I mean, whew, that's a difficult one because I've been to so many places and the culture is so different. Um, Weirdly, like if I think about it, Australia was probably the closest to South Africa, but at the same time, quite different. The Australian culture is quite different to ours, but also very similar. So it's a weird one. We just don't we South Africa is a very specific country. But then if I have to say something that I was really very kind of, I don't call it shocked at the culture or anything that I was like, because my problem is because I research, I can't really go and say I don't know. I didn't know. But one of my favorite places in the world to go, because of this, is South Korea. I'm absolutely like smitten. South Korea is such a stunning place with such a massive wealth of culture, and it's wonderful to go to, but definitely different. I think that was
Yeah.
where I sat and think they are. I mean, they are ultra respectful, but at the same time, so like straight up, just like I want to call them badasses. Like they genuinely are just like the friendliest, but and like super strict. Like they're strict, but they like not as they're not in an angry way. They'll just say to you, "You sit down and you eat this right now," and you're like, "Whoa, okay." I'm sitting, I'm eating, I'm sorry. Like they're very, even in the restaurants, they're very like specific. Like you sit here, you drink this, you eat this. I'm like, okay, fine. I'm sitting, I'm eating, I'm drinking. It's okay. So I think that was kind of one of the only places I've been to where I was like, whoa, like this is a shocking kind of, but this is just how they are, and it was lovely. I still will go there right now. If someone says to me, get on a plane, go to South Korea, no problem, let's go. It's the coolest place in the world. The people are incredibly I don't know there's a specific word I'm trying to find, but I can't get to it now. But anyways, they're just very like direct, incredibly direct, and they're not scared to direct you as well. So that's what I'm saying. It's like the typical. You just walk through the door of any kind of restaurant, and they say sit down. Um, Similar to actually Chile. Chile was very similar to me in the sense of like the service there, as you know. Um, Phew, how hard. Like you just kind of expect you feel like you're just being completely ignored the entire time. So you're sitting there going, why am I supposed to be here? You walk around there and you feel like you are in their space and in their way. And meantime, you're like, I would like to give you some money for some food, please. And people will just straight up ignore you. And I think that was a big culture shock, especially in the industry that I'm in, going like, why would you not want to go and help these people so that they can spend money at your establishment, kind of thing. That was something we really struggled with. Sitting there, it was the strangest thing. So that, yeah.
Yeah, I've experienced that down in Chile as well, where I'm like, been here for a long time and I need a refill, right?
Yeah,
Or
not even
uh,
a refill, like just bring the menu. That would be nice.
yes, bringing them in, like you sit there for 30 minutes before you even get a menu, or even trying
Yeah.
to pay to leave. Um,
Exactly. You're sitting there and I'm desperately wanting to give you something, they just kind of ignore you. But I think that I had this like overall feeling of they just genuinely don't want to serve you. Like they just don't want to be there. So you're kind of in their way for being like, wow, how dare you come to my workplace, kind of thing. It's
yeah.
so weird. So that was like a and one of the things about like culture and hospitality culture or whatever worldwide is like you can't you automatically judge a country by the way that the food is served to you or like the way that you felt when you're eating, because that's like your nostalgia, right? So like any big chefs in the world, they always try and tap into their nostalgia, like, oh yeah, look, when I was younger I had Rice Krispies and so now I'm making a Rice Krispie foam or something or the other. So they'll kind of try and tap into that. And humans overall, we tap into the minute we go to another place, the first thing we want to do is eat. You don't necessarily want to go see all the things. You want to go and eat first. If you're in France, you would automatically want to go and have baguettes. It's like culture and the world is so huge with food and drinks overall that I think the large thing that people and the hospitality individuals forget is that when you are serving people from other countries, that um, your staff front or whatever must be so solid in hospitality in a way that if the minute that they are being treated incorrectly, or if they feel like they're not being treated with respect in some regard, you don't have to be the friendliest human, but just be respectful, then automatically you're going to go like we are now going, the Chileans aren't nice people because they but not the Chileans. It's just the people that worked at that one specific restaurant. But because that's the one thing that a South African, South African that, and people in South Africa will come to and they'll say, South African restaurants and the people here were so friendly. Meantime, we're not. We're just really good at hospitality. We can be very strict and forthright, but we're actually just smiley, happy people. But that's just because we're really hospitable. So weird.
Yeah.
Odd world. Yeah.
So the last question that I have, which is what I ask in all these videos and meetings, is that, if you had one piece of advice, right, to give to like students that are studying international management, right, what would that piece of advice be?
So if they're international management, I'm gonna say it again, but you gotta be respectful towards absolutely everybody in this world. There's not a human on this planet that's better than you are, and you cannot do anything by yourself. You can think that you're the best manager in the world. I know I'm good at what I do, but I cannot for the life of me do this without everyone on the ground with us. There's no ways. I can't open a restaurant without teaching the people how to clean the toilets, and I best be in there with them cleaning the toilets. Otherwise, you'll never gain the respect of your team by delegating instead of actually leading. And management of people is one of the hardest things in the world to do, because you're going to sit there and you're going to say, how am I going to manage this team to produce great results? The only way that you're going to be able to do that is to treat them as humans and treat them with respect, and still kind of give them the time of day when they're doing something wrong, but never overstep that respectful boundary, and never think, or not even for a split second, think that you're better than them, better educated than they are, or smarter than that. Never. Because everybody has intelligence on different levels. You can meet some of the best bartenders in the world or some of the best chefs in the world, and they're completely illiterate. I've met so many chefs in Upper Africa that can't read or write, but they produce better food than some of the best chefs in the world. And so you just cannot ever judge anybody. You can never think that you're better than anyone is. And at the best, you just need to be respectful towards everyone at all times. Super important. Super important.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that piece of advice. And once again, thank you for being willing to talk to us about your experience and your life in South Africa, and everything that you've learned over the years. So
thank you. I am happy that I was able to do this. I hope I didn't ramble too much. Usually when I do this, like, I literally will go off on like random little chats, but that's just my crazy brain. But I'm hoping that some of this made a little bit of sense. Yeah, and it was really lovely to talk to you too.
Awesome. Well, have a great rest of the day. I guess it's your afternoon. It's my
It
early
is.
morning. So,
Oh, goodness.
so
Have a
awesome.
nice day. Yeah, of course.
Yes. So, all right. Well, have a great day, and talk to you later.
Cool. Thank you very much.
All right. Bye.